Hello there everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of my tutorial series for Songs of Six. We are going to go a bit further today. So, what I got in my mind for this episode is I want to make sure that our people stay safe. We're going to add in a new kind of service today because as we want to expand further, we just need more people. You know the drill. And right now, well, we have pretty much done what we could expansion-wise. There's a handful of workers we still have here at our disposal, but the next few steps, namely the production of metal and getting into stone cutting and making the transition from a small town into a bustling city, we really need a little bit more. Also, I have realized while I was checking on out between the episodes that the first murder has occurred during the last couple of days. So we need to work on our city's security. So city guards unlock two things. Unlike the other service buildings that we have encountered so far, we get access to two different things. We have enough knowledge right now, so we can go for that. We have now unlocked the guard post and the dungeon. So, as you pretty much already can foresee, we have now the ability to make sure that criminals get arrested, and we have a building that provides, well, a kind of a police security to the city. So, just going to add in some roads for future usage, because, you know, we don't need idle hands. So, when we zoom out, it's a little bit of a difficult situation right now where to expand to. I think our first security center will be located up here because that will make this will protect this farmland area, and later when we expand down here, because we're going into the mountains later, going to put up everything here another time. But that's a couple of episodes ahead of us. So the first thing we're going to check on out now is the... Where is it? I love to find things in here, but it's really hard to find things in there, so... Okay, I tried. Ah, here, military. Military is part of the infrastructure. No, law is part of the infrastructure. Yeah, like I said, use the magnifying glass thing he left if you have the same problems like I do. Maybe you're smarter than me, who knows. So, God Post is one fixed building, and it comes with new material costs. So we'll require cut stone and armor. So that's something new, isn't it? So we're going to put this up here in between. And because this is going to be something that will be, well, around for a while, we're going to bring up one crate for cut stone and one crate for armor, and we're going to use our import to pose for the first time. So let's configure this like that. We're going to import armor and cut stone. I'm shifting down the meters immediately because I don't want to have any huge orders here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to import like this. 10%, that's 25 items like the tooltip implies, and here the same thing. So since we can only configure this bar here, percentile, was controlling by the amount of crates that I assign, the amount of imports that I have. It's a little bit finicky, but it is as it is. Sadly, we don't have a input box here where we can say, I want to say 25 of that. Doesn't work like that yet. I hope it gets fixed at some point or changed. Anyway, what that does now, there's a little white bar here now in this window, and a little wide bar in, what's the icon there? Here in the cut stone. So we're now buying that stuff automatically. So basically we just have to wait now until our imports have arrived for that stuff to be built up. We're also going to keep automatically now a small stockpile of that available for our infrastructure so our janitors can repair it. So we're going to make the same thing for metal now, but here you see 10% is a lot more items, and this meter is not sensible enough. So I'm not continuously importing metal right now because my wallet wouldn't handle that, sadly. But it is as it is, my friends. But we're getting there. So we're going to fast forward here a little bit because our city does earn money via meat and leather sales. Viva la Hunter. Seriously, the Hunter is a real early game friend of yours. You know, he really gets you. He really brings you to places. So here we have now the first cut stone delivery has arrived. And now we're just waiting for the armor. Keep in mind that things get imported from different places all over the world, and therefore it just takes some time until it arrives, and different amounts of time. You actually, if you really want to nerd yourself out, you can check out the world map here, and everything is transported to you from somewhere. The caravan is even visible on the map. Just as a side note. So we have a bit of homelessness happening again. Possibly at the woodcutters. Yeah. So we already know the woodcutter is a very loud business. And oddly enough, that's interesting. Here we have an empty house, 2 of them. They're too far away from this place, so that's why the folks are not accepting the housing here. So what we're going to do is we're going to slap in a little bit of a housing block here in between. You can, of course, use dormitories and longhouses as well. I'm personally right now vibing for houses because they have a good average between privacy and space. But by all means, you can lower the costs of the resource cost of housing this way quite nicely. Okay, so with that being over the way, we should have people living over there in a moment. Money's going on in. Now we just have to wait for the armor to arrive. Imports are slow. As you see there, we are right now waiting. Probably we haven't had enough money to import the armor in the first place. That could be also the case. So armor is costly. So if you check it out there, cut stone has a sales price of 33, whereas armor has a sales price of 201. So we have to do a little bit of business until it works on out, but that's okay. If your city is stable, you can just fast forward like I do here without any issues. Like you do notice though that the amount of workforce here slowly grows lower. That's because we have auto-employ running, and several of our businesses are growing stronger and stronger over the course of the time because materials are being provided. For example, the bakery. I'm pretty sure the bakery is drawing more and more workers, and therefore we're getting somewhere. That's actually a good thing. So our science is not developing too much, but that is as it is. So we've lost a lot of denarii, so I expect the armor to arrive. Here it is. So now then, that's what I wanted to see. Also, we're out of metal. That's a very, very bad thing. So we're going to change that very soon as well. So the guard post consists out of 5 guards by default, and it provides safety to your people. It is very incomplete though without the presence of a dungeon, so we're going to bring the dungeon up right away. Just wanted to make sure that the first thing's getting finished. So the dungeon is a building which will consist out of only 1 interior block and cells. That's all. We don't need much fuss with the prison, so it's a very simple building. That's what I'm trying to say. All right, so there we go, and then we bring in the cells. Every one of these cells provides room for 8 prisoners. They have no different sizes here. And unlike usually, I am actually cutting this building short on the budget because I don't have enough money to bring up that many cells. The cool thing is you can bring up the cells later. Once you have enough money to bring up the cells, you can do so. So right now we have no odd jobbers at our disposal. That's a little bit bad, but at the same time it doesn't really matter that much because I am lacking the money to import the metal, but this is looking good. So let's see, how much metal do we get there? 29, well, 11 missing, but we're getting there. Okay, let's just wait for a second. So in this phase of the game, it is not unusual to be on this kind of back and forth motion, where you are just waiting for money to be produced and not much in between. But it is as it is. Right now, I'm also waiting for my stockpiles to grow. As soon as we have enough stockpiled coal, we're going to sell that as well. But with coal, I am unwilling to sell anything except for the overproduction, because coal is a very, very valuable resource that we're going to require in many, many ways. And having a certain buffer of coal is interesting insofar as it helps you to balance out your coal production before you know how much you need, because it ain't that easy, you know. So, the dungeon's taken a while, but we're certainly getting there. We're also overburdening our wood production right now. I see that. Wood production is low. That's why I issued a big chopping order. Because it's typical for the early game that you have to help your economy a little bit. But the guard post's full effect will only apply once the dungeon is there. The guard post without the dungeon is just incomplete. That's why we're struggling a little bit right now. As you see there as well, it is also a very, very costly endeavor. So bringing up a city guard is probably one of the most costly things in the early game to do. So right now our odd jobbers are not doing what we want them to do, but that's okay. Sometimes things just take a little bit of time. It's sadly no prioritization possible. Right now they were more interested in the tree cutting orders that I issued before they returned to the dungeon construction. It is as it is. Sometimes you have to be patient with your folks. That's why I keep saying that you are best off not issuing too many orders at once. So what we're also going to do now, after all the buildings have been issued and have been built that I wanted, I'm going to import to this level of metal. So we have now constant import orders for cut stone, for armor, and for metal, because that's just very, very helpful for us. And since we also have a building that's requiring clay to work, we're going to use the last import station for the same thing. So we are now constantly spending money, but it's also a really nice thing because this gives well, this eases you a little bit because you don't have to worry about that all the time. So I think the dungeon is finally done. Keep in mind to put auto-employ on, so you have the full effect there. And now the lawfulness of the city should improve because the crime rate will go lower. We have dungeons available, and that's making usually your people a lot happier. And if nothing else, check. Is there any change to that? I was so sure this should help. And provide happiness. Well, I think what happens here, and well, that's a very good example what can happen to you, so I'm going to keep it as it is. So what happens here is our city isn't too interested in that because we're, well, our crime rate was never too high to begin with. So the lawfulness can only reach 25%. Why does that come together? I can explain. So prisons are 25% of the law enforcement. The other 25% are courts, scaffolds, and, well, I don't know if slavers also count in. but I think we cannot go higher than that as long as we don't add in extra services. So that is kind of a bummer, but you don't need to be too worried about that. Right now, we are also in a typical situation that you will run into when you play Songs of Six. Running out of workers is a pretty common thing that happens to all manner of different cities from time to time, and you shouldn't be too shocked when that happens. So right now, the easiest way to help ourselves out of that situation would be really quite simple. Just let time pass. Because we have a really nasty debuff because all of the immigration that happened, and as long as we don't add in more people into the city, that meter will go down ultimately. And you see here the loyalty is wavering. This is a level of loyalty where you should be kind of alarmed about, because that's enough to slowly put people up to a riot, and if people are rioting, that really sucks. So we're going to help ourselves by building another stage. It is clearly seeable that our people want more games in their life, and therefore we're going to put up a stage here in the vicinity there. This will already help a ton. We're also at a net negative workforce there. That's very unfavorable, but it's easily fixable as we're just going to unemploy ourselves some coalers. We don't really need them right now. The entire coal business is not really necessary, and well, we could swap the bakery over to coal consumption, but it's also optional, so that's just not really necessary at that point. No, we're just going to put up a stage here, and that will fix the problem. If ever you come onto the situation where this warning pops up, it's very helpful to check on out the services and help yourself there, and put up whatever service is the lowest again, somewhere where it's possibly as far away as possible from the other service. That really helps a ton. So we're again net negative on workforce. I know how that comes together. The bakery here is drawing more and more people, so we'll have to drop the auto employment here for a while and reduce that down to 10 people, because we just don't have the necessary workforce to work that off. But this is actually something extremely good. That means our industry is finally kicking into gear. We're producing much more food than we're actually needing, so we're going to export our bread at that point. So we're going to export, let's see, how much of that stuff spoils per year? All of it. So we're going to export, let's say, 75% or so, like that, and this way, we're going to have a massively increased income. Also, let's check on out the fruit. Has also a very high spoilage rate. So, let's see. Oh, forgot to put people on these. That's a no-no. So, same thing here for the fruit. We're just going to export 50% around, or 50%-ish of that. So, this will bring our city a really big boost in wealth, and that's what we're needing right now. So whenever such times are upon you, it's really important that you cut down on the industry you need least and free up new workers to help yourself, and do something to induce more happiness. In this scenario, it was really enough to build a new stage, and that's that. But not building that stage would have been actually enough to tip the city into a riot, so be careful about that. These little things, they do matter a lot more than you might think in the first place. The cool thing about this game is your people will grow happier by just being rich. So at some point, if you have enough money, that's also a happiness-inducing factor. Let's ignore the slaver for a moment, and as you see here, riches, making people happy. Rising the amount of immigrants that we can have. Isn't it nice? So, while the guard post does not particularly do much, and I think I know what happened there. Yes, so the explanation why I was wrong about that. So that's pretty important to put that up here. So I did a mistake. The Cretonian species is not interested in law. You see, there's no happiness meter behind law. If you check that out on the other species here, for example, the Tilapi, they have a they grow actively more happy if there's law enforcement around. I don't know why I had that marked wrongly in my mind, but it's okay. I'm pretty happy that we document here a big whoopsie. That's pretty important as well. So the environment tab here, it's pretty good to see, is also a place where you can tinker around. So as you see here, lighting is something that we don't provide at all. Roundness, we actually don't get yourself fooled by roundness. Roundness is not specifically noting how round a room is. It's about how non-rectangular it is. So I'll show you. Let's bring up something that's actually... We're going to delete that room afterwards, but I just want to show you. So this is a, here you see that shape meter, organic versus square. And if I now start adding these little loopsies and doopsies, as you see there, the room's now high in roundness or organic. So with this species, when you're playing Cretonian mainly, you are well off with building your rooms a little bit weird. We're going to introduce that now over the course of the next episode, don't you worry. So the next effective thing that we now need to do before we can go one step further in our industrial evolution is we now need to provide more happiness. As you see there, the city guard was not particularly popular, but it is a really, really important part to take. The next increases here, the next lowest costing will be the physician. The other parts here, the bathhouse is 1,800. The, well, corporal punishment is also not necessarily increasing the happiness of your city, as we saw. Tombs are also very, very costly. Temples, don't buy temples before you have a massively rich city in general. Well, okay, some temples are less costly than others, but temples are in general always quite costly. The elderly rest home is something for bigger cities as well. So healthcare is the next really big thing. So law and order is important, but it's not providing too much happiness for your city. That's the gist of what we have seen here. So we're going to slap up a couple of extra researchers here because we can't afford it right now. And then we're going to build up the physician's place. In the meantime, our city is growing richer and richer. We do have certain shortage of bakers at this point, but you can't have everything. Like I said, cut down on the industries as you feel able to. We also have our first prisoner. But check this out. So your prisoners are usually getting out of prison after a certain while, and that's just what they do. And as you see here, the law rate is now dropping even between 24%. So don't take that too seriously. I haven't found any particularly powerful way to play around that. So let me inform me if I'm overlooking any details, because it can easily have happened. I think I have understood a couple of things about this game, but I clearly haven't understood everything yet. I'm just sharing what I have understood so far. So we're now really boosting up the time, because we need those tech points. We need 500 of them. There we go. So the physician, though, as you see again in the services tab, healthcare, it's not an insanely huge meter, but it is of importance for our people, so we're going to do this. Another physician and, or no, not another physician, a physician, a physician for the city. We're going to bring up the place over here. Again, I'm building it nice and large, so we have a lot of service provided. And by now, I don't think I need to explain much anymore. We know how the whole shenanigans here work. So with that thing here, we have service slots, and as usual, we're trying to fill in a lot of them. And let's add up enough shelves until we have a maximum quality of that building. Sometimes you have to cut lower on the workbenches. Sometimes I tend to overshoot with the workbenches. That might happen to you as well. And here I think it might have happened already as well too. So if that happens, you can here just click that item, that button here, to remove some items. I'm removing these to put in some more shelves there until we reach the 100%. So here, the physician's place needs tools. So we have a need for another material. It's also cut stone, but luckily cut stone is already something we provide. And this is, well, the thing is, I personally think that it's not really worth it to try and produce everything on your own, because it's much easier to try and earn the money with a local production and import what you need. Because as a matter of fact, we really need only a low amount of tools in the first place to get the ball rolling here, and then we don't need too many tools afterwards anymore. So it's totally sane to say we're going to import tools and then we're going to be okay with it. So for starters, we're going to do the same method as usual. We're going to import that in the vicinity, but tools are darned costly. So we'll have to grind up some money now again. Accident. You can also turn off the notifiers for that, because honestly, those accidents, as tragic as they might be, we cannot do anything about them, honestly. There's really nothing we can do about it. Right now, we are actually building a doctor to change something about that, dear folks. So sometimes your city is just stalling a bit, and that's why I love using this extremely fast-forward mode, because right now we really cannot do anything besides for waiting for the money, for the tools to arrive. And I do value these faces for something in particular, though. And that's it. I check out if my city is working all right, you know. This is what I use these faces for, because, you know, sometimes when you're building too many things at once, or, you know, then things can grow out of hand. And a stop of immigration and just waiting for some resources is a very, very good opportunity to check how these meters here develop, if everything's working on out, if any stuff is running low or stuff like that. I really value that. So I'm going to add up another level of trade negotiations, because we can earn more for our wares this way. So wood is now finally a sellable resource, but we don't have that much of it. At the same time, though, there is a nice trick. In times when your city is just not busy, you can use your remaining odd jobbers to chop up insane amounts of trees, like I do here, and don't worry, they all regrow. And then we're going to assign one of these depots to sell away the remaining 10% of our warehouse stock. It's not going to make you insanely rich, but it's a nice way of just filling your warehouses like a madman with some resource and selling it away afterwards. So that's just that. But you need a couple of levels of bartering to make that happen. In certain environments, you just don't have enough value on your wood, like I had it here. I had to increase bartering really for a couple of levels until that came together, so it is as it is. So right here, well, it's just the waiting room situation, but it's also showing a nice thing here. Our city is constantly producing an income. There is always, I can constantly order new wood. There is no shortage. Our food stockpiles are looking also pretty okay and stable. I could reduce the exports if I'd need more money, if I'd need more food. No, I don't want that. If the game asks you like that, just press escape and scuttle away, because otherwise you're going to delete your entire room and you'll be sad. Don't left-click a room in construction. Right? It's just weird like that. So we're going to go now, as the last, I have imported the last scraps of tools now. I'm going to set this up now as a steady import, and that's for the repairs. So the physician's workshop is being opened. I'm going to add in a couple of odd jobbers or immigrants now to have physicians available. You know, we gotta have some people working there, otherwise this won't be that useful. And then we'll have access to a doctor's workshop. This will again be, you know it already, a huge step forward for our city, happiness-wise. So services go up, immigrants go up as well. You know the drill. So there we go. So I'll leave it at this point because I'm going to go forward in the next episode. As you see there, sometimes you just can't expand like you just want to. In this episode, we saw that sometimes also your improvements don't work like you want them to. And believe me, this does happen as a common regular thing when you are picking up this game. Happened to me so often that I'm actually surprised that it only happened once during this series so far. Now then, leave me your comments down below. There's, I think, enough content on this episode already, and feel free to ask away if there's any open questions. Feel free to, well, give me any recommendations or ideas or whatnot. I'm really looking forward to hear from you guys. Next episode, we're going to make this city grow even further, because we have now access to more people, so we can shove ourselves a little bit more forward. But it's going to be all going down next episode. So thanks a lot for watching, and leave me a thumbs up, leave a subscription on the channel if you haven't done so already. There's daily content coming up from my side, and if you like that, chances are you're liking the rest as well. So also, playlist link in the description box if you want to start from the first episode or just want to wind back to another episode. And last but not least, there are support links for this wonderful little channel, and I'd be delighted if you'd give PayPal, Patreon, or Buy Me a Coffee a look. And big thanks to all the supporters out there who did so already and supported. Enough of that, have a wonderful day, and see you next time. Bye-bye.